Hey there, hunters. Welcome back to the Gunners Guild. Part of my audio and stuff for a while. I'm currently doing this at work as my computer's all packed up because I'm moving. Anyway, I haven't made any videos regarding Monster Hunter Wilds because we really didn't have anything to go off of since almost no gameplay has ever been shown. And while it's still kind of the case, at least we're getting the weapon and mechanic showcases. Those are starting to come out now throughout the week. So, gotta look into that finally. So today we're going to take a look at the heavy bowgun showcase and kind of go through what they showed and my thoughts on it. So I'll just be playing those clips in the background and talking over it. So let's just get through it before I ramble too much. Okay, so the heavy bowgun showcase. Over here at the very start, we can see that the hunter attaches the wyvern heart to the heavy bowgun. And I wanted to point this out specifically because the animation for this is actually much faster than it is in Worlds and Rise. Assuming they showed the majority, if not all of the animation here, it's kind of hard to tell because like the two clips we have for it kind of like cuts in. But anyway, it looks like it's just applying coatings, just kind of like a bow where you just slap it in. And it's really fast. Now, in World, we had this long animation where you have to set the gun down, put the ammo in, pick the gun back up. And this is largely the reason why Wyvern Heart and Wyvern Snipe were almost never used outside of some very niche situations. They just took way too long to set up, and it was more often than not just a DPS loss, and you would just be better off firing whatever ammo you were already using. So if the animation here is really that fast, then Wyvern Heart and whatever other special ammos we have will probably be seeing a lot more use in Wilds. So the next thing that's pretty obvious here in the trailers that we have seen before in the previous videos is that heavy bowgun now has rapid fire. And this is a first, and I'm wondering what light bowgun's going to get in replace of this, because the one thing it had over heavy bowgun besides the mobility was rapid fire. And speaking of mobility, it may be small, but as you can see, we still have walk and shoot and most likely walk and reloads here in Wilds. And I'm a little concerned about this because it's one of the reasons why gunning in 5th gen was kind of insane, but also because if this is not a default feature for all ammo types and it's part of the ammo properties like it is in 5th gen, it's going to shoehorn us into only using very specific bowguns and only using the ones that can shoot the ammos that can walk and shoot and walk and reload. Because largely we just ignored everything that couldn't do those two things because it's just too damn powerful. So I do hope to see more info about this at Gamescom. Hopefully this is just on by default and not something that we have to look for at all our little ammo tables and stuff. Now, when they're showing off the use of Wyvern Heart here, they also have the 3 ammo symbols above the ammo gauge for Wyvern Heart. And this is interesting because this is like the landmines and countermines icon that light bowgun has in 5th gen. Now, this isn't specifically for that, and it's not for Wyvern Heart, but I wanted to point that out, that we do have 2 cooldown related special ammos now instead of just 1, and we'll talk about more of that in just a second. Next up is probably the main part of the showcase, which is guarding. The wording sounds like heavy bowgun by default has shield and it's not a mod attachment anymore, which would be interesting if that's the case, but I don't think it is. Now, bowguns have always been about modding and customizing them all the way back to like 2nd gen, and so I feel like we still have the option to remove the shield and put on the power barrel, but by default the heavy bowguns will have shield on rather than off like in every other Monster Hunter game. Especially because if you go to the Focus Strikes video, the bowgun here clearly does not have a shield on. So I think shield is just default mod now, and you can take it off. So it's not like we're always going to have shield on, we're not always going to have guards. But it is cool that we do get retreat on block now, which is one of the biggest changes I've seen for heavy bowgun here. Blocking was largely ineffective in other games due to how it just locked you into your position when blocking, and unless you invested enough into guard skills and stamina to just sit there and face tank all the hits, it really wasn't worth using because it's just too slow to reposition with heavy bowgun. So now that we can block and quickly roll back and get into a critical distance again and just get away from being stuck inside the monster, that's going to make shield heavy bowgun much better, and probably kind of why shield heavy bowgun is going to be the default playstyle. I'm really excited for this change for sure. But also the narration says that you have auto block, and now that we have manual blocking as well. And I don't think it's going to be what people think it is. I don't think we're going to have guard counters or guard points, anything like that. I believe that going into focus mode is going to put you into manual block mode, kind of like how focus mode lets you do manual aiming with melee stuff, because it kind of has to be that way. And like you're going to use like the manual block with focus mode to trigger the clash moments for heavy bowgun. That's what I'm thinking, because if that's not the case, then we're gonna have way too many buttons to push, like, and hold down really for heavy bowgun. Like we're gonna have to hold down focus to do like our focus attacks. We're gonna have to hold down aim to be able to shoot. And then we're gonna have to hold down block to block. It's too many button combinations. I don't think that's gonna be the case. I think focus mode is going to be the manual block mode. Now, speaking of focus mode, basically melee's focus mode is to aim their attacks precisely. But for gunners, I think it's just going to be used for like the special counter MOs, and then I guess manually blocking here with heavy bowgun. because you can see in this clip that the focus mode is pretty smooth. Like, it directly goes from this roll into focus and counter shot. Like, during the roll, the focus mode's turned on, and then as soon as he's out of the roll, it's already loaded in the special MO and going for the charge. And I think it's going to be basically that, plus if you just hold it normally, you're going to have manually block up, because there's no way we're going to have 3 different inputs otherwise. Like, because basically, if focus mode isn't manual block for heavy bowgun, then we're going to have focus mode, so like hold a button and then do something for focus. We're going to have hold button for aim and then press to shoot. And then we're going to have a button for manually guarding. And that's silly. They're not going to have that many buttons to push to basically lead into another input. So I feel like we're going to have just hold aim to shoot, and then we're going to have hold focus to either do the counter attacks, or while you're, focusing, you're going to be sitting there with the guard up, because it already looks like they have the guard up during the focus anyway. I think that's just going to be the manual block mode that they're talking about. Because I think the main part of the whole focus to manually block is probably to trigger the clashes for heavy bowgun, because I don't really see a way you could do that otherwise. Which also makes me wonder, if you don't have a shield mod on, what is that button going to do and how do you clash without it? Anyway, side tangent there. And then speaking of the focus attacks, this charge shot looks actually a lot like Ryze's counter shot, and this does use one of the 3 special ammo shots that were above the Wyvern Heart, as we mentioned earlier. So I assume this is like the strong counter ammo that's just going to deal more damage to the wounded spots, but this does seem to act like a sticky blast by the looks of it. Like, it does like initial impact and then it explodes. So I don't know if this is going to have KO properties or if this is just going to be like, a counter hit. Now in the focus strikes video, we do see a similar firing here where we have a charge shot, but the player is walking around and shooting this one and then gets pushed back from the discharge like a counter mine from my bowgun. You can even see the little grenade lob from it. So this bowgun also doesn't have a shield attached to it, so this leads me to believe that we will have different options for focus strikes. Either like special ammo setups, like you can just swap them, or it's going to be fixed on the weapon, or maybe it's a switch skill kind of thing. But there are clearly 2 different styles of focus strike that they've shown here for heavy bowgun. Maybe it's based upon just having a shield attachment or not, but there's definitely some modability to them by the looks of it. We'll definitely be able to take off the shield and change our focus strike some way, or just be dependent on the bowgun. But these 2 videos make me think there's plenty of modability to the bowguns at the very least. Anyway, back to the heavy bowgun showcase. Now the last clips here are rather interesting. So we have this weird counterblast shot that we've seen before. I'm not really sure where this fits into like the whole kit. Is this another focus mode attack? Is this an alternate special ammo instead of Wyvern Heart? Not really sure. Is this something that you can do to do the whole like clash thing? I don't think so, but they don't really have any UI here to help indicate where it's for and what it's kind of doing. So that's something that we're gonna have to look out for, maybe in some of the new Gamescom trailers or some of the gameplay demos that we're gonna get. Now, regarding some of the ammo, we can see that we have Pierce ammo again here about 40 seconds into the hunt. It's got extra hits as it travels and you can hear it, so Pierce ammo is a thing. And then if you look back at the 28-second mark in the video, you can see we have spread ammo still as well. Not only can you see the multiple impacts, but the shotgun shell discharges as well is there. So it looks like we're going to have most of our ammos that we're familiar with from 5th gen. Okay, and that's basically all they showed in that 47-second clip, but I have a few thoughts I wanted to share on the subject as well real quick. So in one of the developer interviews, they had said that bowguns were going to be reworked this generation, which I'm all for. Kind of like, how Hunting Horn was reworked for Ryze, like it got changed a lot. But from the looks of things, it seems to function just like World's heavy bowgun with a few extra tricks. Like we've already had shields, but now we can roll after a block, which is great. I love it. We already had special ammo, and we still have Wyvern Heart. But now we have 2 chargeable special ammos, which is cool, I guess. I don't know how that's going to work out, but, hopefully they're good enough that, we're actually going to want to use them on cooldown. And heavy bowgun has rapid fire now, but that's not really something new. It was just lifted from light bowgun. But that's basically it. It's the same ammos from the looks of things, and I was hoping that we would get shoulder tackle back from Ryze, because that was the best thing heavy bowgun ever got. But I'm holding out hope that it's just going to be some sort of mod change that you can take off shield and put on power barrel. Now you can tackle instead of block. That'd be cool, right? But I'm really not seeing like the whole redesign or rework to the bowguns, which is kind of a letdown. Hopefully the Gamescom trailer and gameplay comes out and we'll see more, but yeah, I mean, I was expecting a lot more different, but it's just World Heavy Bowgun Plus, which is fine for now, I guess. Light Bowgun, though, will have to be something special if it wants to have a place in Wilds, because the only thing Light Bowgun has is its mobility and rapid fire. And once mobility isn't an issue with heavy bowgun, as we've seen like in Rise and GU and stuff like that, like light bowgun just becomes obsolete. And more so now that heavy bowgun has rapid fire. So yeah, I don't know what light bowgun's gonna do, but I hope that one's the actual like big rework, because it's gonna have to be. Anyway, that's all I got on the subject. Thanks for bearing with me on these stupid, 10 things you missed in the trailer videos, but I'm going to be covering my thoughts and such for the gunner things that come out when they come out. But anyway, still looking forward to heavy bowgun. Wilds is looking good so far, but I gotta go back to packing. Peace and good luck out there, hunters.